My name is Carolyn Delaney. I'm the founder and CEO here at Journey Enterprises. We're a media company on a mission to make recovery from addiction visible because it's important. It saves lives. There are over 26 million of us in recovery, and we want those who are still sick and suffering to know that there's a path for them. There's millions of us here on the other side of active addiction, and that it's probable that people can and do recover. Our videos share personal, intimate stories of what people's journeys were like, going from what it was like to what happened to what it's like now, in an effort to let people know that we're here, we care, and that there's a way out. Visible recovery saves lives, and we want the world to know that. So if you have a story about recovery and would like to share it, please contact me, Carolyn at recovery-journey.com. I hope you enjoy our videos. Have a great day.
My name's Emily. I'm an alcoholic and an addict. I'm 27 years old, so I'm young and in recovery, which to me is awesome because, you know, it's the future of recovery, basically. When you get to catch a disease like this so early in life, I feel like that's a blessing in itself. I'm super grateful for that. My first time I ever drank or used a substance, I was 14. I have two older brothers who are and were huge role models for me. In high school, they were always viewed as, you know, kings of campus, or they were good at everything in my eyes. And I just kind of felt like the forgotten last child who was a girl, and so I tried my hardest to do and be everything that they did. So I joined sports, which I really did enjoy. I tried hardest in school, but they also partied, and I thought that was so cool. So I couldn't wait to do that. I pressed the bottle to my lips. I had this warm, fuzzy feeling, and all of my insecurities and problems went away. I mean, ever since I was a young girl, I don't know what went on in my mind, besides now I know that it's that alcoholic mind and the way of thinking that I had is, I had made it. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who I wanted to be. I hated myself as a young kid. How can you just, there was all of these fears that I had, and not fitting in and not being good enough. And then when I had that drink, all of that stuff went away, and I was 14. Like, that's crazy to think of now, to think back then. Fast forward into graduating from high school, my friends were going to college, and I'm still lost. That's just a big word for me in my whole beginning of, my life lost. I never knew. I was a chameleon. I always changed who I was to make other people happy. I had gone down this road of where I was just flat. My personality and my sense of humor and all that stuff, and my feelings, all that stuff just went away. The drugs had really dulled me down. That is when I broke down and went to a meeting for the first time. The woman who was speaking at the podium, I just heard her again last night via Zoom meeting, which is very cool. I wasn't gonna go to a meeting, boom, there she was. I'm like, okay, God moment. She spoke, and not every single detail was the same, but she explained exactly how I was feeling right then and there, and how I felt most of my life. And that made me realize, oh my God, I belong here. And I never really belonged anywhere. I started getting more humble because, you know, I wrote out some pretty serious stuff. You know, I wrote some things down, and being able to take it from inside my head and put it on paper, and then read it aloud to another person who didn't know me like the back of their hand. Like, I don't have to hide behind all of these facades that I continue to put up, and I don't have to drown my, you know, mental instability, which for me it was, I was depressed all the time, I was anxious all the time, I was always caring so much about what other people thought of me instead of just being present in the moment. I have learned so much about myself, which is freeing in itself. I don't make every single move in my life caring about what other people think about me. I mean, I got to write my fears down and dissect them, and, you know, see where they stem from. And that is a part that has helped me, is that I was really living on a completely fear-based life, and that people do love me for my true authentic self, and that I don't need a substance and to make sure that I'm funny or I'm confident or whatever it is. I can just be that person because I am, and I need to believe in myself, which I learned. Not everybody's road is the same, and that we're all shoulder to shoulder in it. It's not one person is better than the other ever, and basically that women in recovery really lift each other up, and we're not our enemies anymore. We're here to make each other better, and that was a huge lesson that I learned in my first year of sobriety and recovery. Strangers talking to strangers, but at the end of the day, you have to remember we're all human beings, and we're all fighting the same battle. So there's, number one, something you have in common. And I think that it's a beautiful thing. And there's so many people out there willing to help and who want to hear you. The most beautiful thing in life is relationships with other human beings, especially ones that are fighting the same battle and going on the same road.
Well, my name is David Bullard, 59, originally from the mountains of Southern California, a little town called Running Springs, about 200 people. And I came to Maine in the mid-'80s. I had alcohol addiction, and through my time here in Maine, I found recovery in the late 90s, and from the late 90s till now, I have been successfully in recovery and continuing to grow and feel better and work with others all the time. I was highly independent growing up and self-employed and doing things. I wasn't faced constantly with things that were blocking me from my path, whatever I wanted to do, and that could mean staying up late or possibly drinking too much. I was my own ship captain and crew half the time. And so then as the years went on, I got married, had kids, and all those reflections came right back at me, harder and harder and harder all the time. And life's responsibilities. I realized there's no way possible to do this and continue on this path. And so I struggled with quitting and with trying to quit for about 10 years, from about 88 to 1998. It wasn't for about 10 years until I actually got a grip on sobriety and working the 12 steps, working with others and trying to clean the wreckage, take a look at my past and look at the patterns that existed. I would have obligations, and they could either be recreational or work obligations or family obligations. And not only would I not make them, but I would also make excuses for not making them, so that they were like the the dynamic effect was multiplied. Or in the case of having a family would be possibly going camping on a weekend, and I would not be able to do that. And then not only would I not do it, but I would say, oh, something else came up, or I have this agenda, I can't do it. When the truth was, I was shattered inside from the use of the medicating. My medication was alcohol. It was in late 90s, 98, in the fall. I had finally reached a point where I really needed to see this stuff clear. I really saw myself clearer, and I wasn't in any big trouble, but I was kind of haunted. And I started to attend a 12-step meeting in the Mid-Coast area, and it was in the morning. So the morning one seemed to make a difference to me, and I was able to see that I kind of just need to rein it in, so to speak, and just kind of see myself as I go through the day. Don't get charging. Don't get going too fast. Don't make quick decisions. Maybe call someone first before making a decision. And and so that was going on 23 years ago, and I've continued to do that. And life has just gotten simpler, and it has gotten better. All those years that I was in going and attending meetings and often leaving early, I never once took the suggestions totally to heart. And when I did, I'll never forget the day I was in a coffee house, and a guy who I knew from the meeting, who was a very successful person in the area, had said to me, if you ever have any trouble at all, just give me a call. That's what we do here. And I actually did that, and it worked. And so, and I go, man, I wasn't following these basic suggestions all these years, and here I do that. And like 10 minutes after, I felt like I had a 500-pound weight lifted off of myself. And what it was is I actually listened to him that morning. And then a couple days later, I started feeling this anxiety and these pressures of life and everything that was seemed to be too hard to handle. And I called this guy and I talked to him. And the guy he's still a friend of mine. He gave me that time to talk that time. And he actually opened up the door for me to feel okay about calling somebody, to work through an issue.
What does it look like to live a recovered life today?
That means that you're going to live more peacefully in yourself and more peacefully in your own skin. And so I don't overcommit as much. I might push the edge a bit, but not in an extreme way. And doing things like making basic obligations, say I have a job, or I'm going to do something, I show up on time. I leave in plenty of time and drive the speed limit, and go calm down the road. There's not so much intensity in everything. So that, to me, that is just worth everything.
What message would you like to give that viewer?
My best message is know that there is help and people that will help. The craziest thing about addiction is unless a person's ready, and you could have the best coaches or sponsors, as we say, or people there to help you. If you're not willing to take it or you can't absorb it, it's really difficult. Another part of that. But what I try to let people know is that there is hope, and that there is people when you're ready that are there. And it's hard to take someone who's not ready and make them ready. And it isn't easy. It took me about 3 years before I felt better. So to think that you're going to feel better quick, it's not going to happen overnight, but it's much better than staying there in that space forever. Through the years, I've been working on a book. It only took me 45 years to do. And it's a book of all songs that I wrote. And it's being published.
Man.
It actually has photos of all kinds of stuff in it. people that I've known and people that I've played music with. But that is part of an accomplishment through sobriety that I would have never done.
So my name is Ben Sawyer. I'm 46. I'm located in Gorham, Maine, and I was addicted to opiates. I'm born and bred in Maine, and growing up, I wasn't really much of a drinker or into the drugs or alcohol scene. I did 8 years in the Marine Corps, and getting out of the Marine Corps, I moved to Connecticut, where my first wife was from. I was originally going to go into law enforcement, but I actually got a job as a security guard at a hospital, and was talking with the nurses, and they dared me to go to nursing school. So I went to nursing school. The GI Bill helped pay for that, and I graduated nursing school in 2008. And then in 2008, the same year, I had a root canal for an infected tooth and was prescribed Percocet for the first time. And actually the first time I'd ever even used an opiate. And that, I tell people, awakened a Hulk inside of me that lay dormant, that I never knew existed, and really just kind of took off real quick. It spun into a serious addiction problem over the five years in nursing, ending up with prescription abuse and IV use, fentanyl. Ultimately, it basically cost my nursing career. At that point, I had lost the marriage, I'd lost the house, I'd lost all of that. So I moved back up. I tried the geographical cure and said, oh, well, I'll go to Maine. But surprise, surprise, the Hulk followed me here too. So I started working as a nurse here, and it wasn't long before it just kind of took off again, because I didn't have any way to recover. I didn't have any way to stay sober. Basically in 2013, the nursing board and I, through some faults of my own and the rampant Hulk that had destroyed everything else, basically finally destroyed my nursing career. And the nursing board basically said, you can give us your license or we'll take it. So I surrendered my license in 2013. And I was broken. And so I basically, kind of surrendered at that point. The investigator for the state of Maine, for the nursing board, gave me the name of an agency called the Maine Professionals Health Program, which is an agency that helps healthcare professionals that are affected by alcohol and opiates and addiction. And I got hooked up with a recovery group that deals with and supports healthcare professionals that have alcoholism and addiction and substance abuse problems. It got me in the rooms, and it got me hooked up, and it showed me truly that there was hope. And that is the most powerful aspect, I think, for me, is just the idea of hope, because I was hopeless. And once I found myself into the rooms, I got hooked up with NA and the 12-step programs. And that was really the solution that worked for me. It helped me claw my way out of the Hulk and back into a hope, and remarried back in a house, and get all the promises back into working. And the recovery journey over the past 8 years, and I started working, I had left the healthcare sector, and I started working in the corporate sector with a 9-to-5, because it gave me that structure and the routine that I needed during the day. And then at night, I would attend the meetings, and I would sponsorship and work my recovery program. Last year, 2020, as we all know, COVID hit, and the unemployment I was not immune to, and I had found myself on the unemployment line, looking to help other addicts that were affected by opiates do a job search. And I got hooked into that system, and I actually got employed with an in-home addiction treatment company called Aware as a certified recovery advisor. It was something that I was actually very passionate about, because it saved my life. And I've seen it save other people's lives. And I've seen the idea of hope make a huge difference in other people's lives. If anything else, I would say that the hope is the biggest combatant to the thing that kept me sickest the longest, and that was shame and guilt. Again, the guilt and the shame of having that disease while being entrusted with the health of other people kept me sick.
I'm thinking about the person who's maybe a physician's assistant or a nurse's assistant, or an LPN, somebody who is in similar shoes to what you were in. What would you tell them that could give them that seedling of hope that has been so important for you?
One, they're not alone. Two, there is help out there. So the Maine Professionals Health Program, they're located right in Augusta, and they work with all the boards. They work to keep medical professionals in practice while they're getting treatment for the substance abuse disease. It is much better to come up front, to face it head on, and to get the help that you need. And there is a huge aspect of anonymity too while you remain practice, and they don't make you wear it on your badge when you're a dentist, so that all your patients know that you're in recovery or anything like that.
I would love to have you reflect on the internal landscape of what happened for you when you finally said, okay, I'm going to ask for help. How did that shift the inside for you?
It was really when I got the phone call from the investigator about 2 weeks later, saying that you are under investigation for your license for those pharmacy reports. And I remember getting home from work and just kind of breaking down, and just internally being so weak and so fed up with hiding and manipulating and pretending and faking and lying and cheating and stealing and just so tired, and just kind of saying, I can't do this anymore. 2 days later, I was in a support group that in the evenings meets for healthcare professionals, and I knew probably first 15 minutes I was there that helpless feeling and that worn down, sick of it, tired feeling wasn't going to be forever. In a facility, I remember standing outside the door waiting, trying to get the courage to walk in that door, because I had no idea what was on the other side, and I could hear them inside on the other side of that door laughing. And I thought I had the wrong room.
Thinking about our viewer who may be, just trying to decide whether to do this, or maybe brand new to recovery, are there any other favorite tools that you like to use on a daily basis that you would want a chance to pass on to that viewer or reader?
First and foremost, meditation. And I like to call it de-stressing. I like to drive. I love to drive my car. I love, I listen to music, or sometimes I'll drive when it's really quiet, and it helps me clear my head and to de-stress. I do 3 meetings a week. 3 are my regular ones. Occasionally I'll hit another one, or but there are 3 regular ones that I attend every week. And those are probably the biggest tools that I use to ground my recovery and keep me sober.
Are there any parting words that you'd like to pass on to those who may watch this or read your words later down the road?
Hope is big, because when you're hopeless, it's a dire situation to be in. Hope was a huge part of my recovery and getting out of that dire situation. But there is hope.